So, hey guys, I wanted to come on and answer a question that Jolene had live. And she asked, what is the best structure, a greenhouse or a cold frame, to grow winter vegetables in? In all honesty, it depends on what you want to grow. Um, like I said, I have had tomatoes in an unheated cold frame do just fine here in my Indiana garden until the beginning of January before. The tomato that I have in my tunnel house right now, which is unheated, is doing fine. But if I wanted that tomato to, say, make it into February, I might want to consider growing it in a greenhouse, and I've done that. The downside to tomatoes in a greenhouse, as with a lot of vegetables in a greenhouse, you're going to be dealing with things like whitefly. Um, I have tried so many times, and it's kind of the same as growing a tomato in your house. You can do that. You can use the grow lights, they will produce fruits all winter long. And so that's an option. But honestly, if you want to get started, you want to grow some vegetables, and you just want to try your hand, go with a cold frame. It is so much less expensive. You don't have to worry about heat, and you don't have to heat a greenhouse. You can use an unheated greenhouse. But let me give you the definition out of my Complete Idiot's Guide to Year-Round Gardening of how we actually define these different structures. Um, okay, a cloche, which you can use to protect your plants, is a bell-shaped cover historically made of glass that is put over a plant to protect it from frost, heavy rain, or hail. Now, will it protect it from cold weather? It's probably a little small. It may. The thing about a cloche is, just like if you use a 2-liter bottle or a milk jug, you have to vent it on warm days or it will fry your plant. A cold frame is a small box-like outdoor structure in which gardeners start or grow plants in pots. Again, you can make these of wood, you can make these of metal. You can buy these pre-made, PVC, and just bend it into place. That's the plastic or the metal. Conduit is what we actually use. The metal, the real thin metal conduit. And we have a conduit bender, and we can bend things into whatever shape we want. But you can also use bales of straw, and like I said, a plastic top to cover it with. Just attach it to some wood so that it doesn't just blow away. If you just spread a piece of plastic over it, it's probably going to blow away, and probably not a real good idea in case the sun gets strong, because the sun hitting that plastic is going to create some heat. I always say use straw in the garden. I know some people are going to say it doesn't matter, but here's the difference. Straw is wheat. You may end up with a few wheat seeds, probably not if it was commercially harvested, but you could. Hay is grown in fields. It is full of weed seeds. You want your garden full of weed seeds? Use hay. Dead serious. Okay. um, a cool greenhouse is a greenhouse that has a nighttime minimum temperature of 45 degrees to 50 degrees and a minimum daytime temperature of 55 to 60. Now I got to tell you, in the wintertime when it is sunny, I have never found a greenhouse to be that cool, because that sun hits that plastic and it heats it up. And it is nothing for it to be 80, 90, or 100 degrees inside of a greenhouse when that sun heats it and everything starts to heat up. So it gets very warm. Let me see here. Okay, a greenhouse is a structure at least the size of a small room with plastic or glass walls and a roof. Again, these are normally heated. Now I want to go and see. Okay, here's a low tunnel. This is another option. A low tunnel is a garden structure created by securing row covers over hoops that span a single crop row. Typically, such a structure is just high enough to accommodate the height of the crop plants within the tunnel. Because you remember, you don't want the row cover, the frost cover, the plastic to touch your plants. So, the low tunnel hoops is what I have out in my cold frame right now. And this is the first year that I've had the fancy ones that I bought from Johnny's. In the past, I've not had this. I've just used, like I said, tomato cages or whatever I had. Um, okay, and let's see. I'm not seeing. No? Okay. Tunnel houses are also sometimes called high tunnels. Okay, and here's a tunnel house. A plastic tunnel shaped covering constructed over rows of plants growing in the ground, usually tall enough for a gardener to stand upright in. Um, we also have unheated greenhouse defined back here. And an unheated greenhouse or cold greenhouse doesn't contain a heat source, but does contain windows or vents to vent hot air. Um, and a warm greenhouse is defined as a greenhouse with nighttime temperatures between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit and daytime temperatures reaching as high as the 90s. So, again, that's a little more accurate description of how warm a greenhouse gets. I suppose if you had it vented really well, it would be a little bit cooler, but to me, those cooler temperatures are kind of more like an unheated. Um, Early in the morning, before the sun really gets up in the sky and starts heating things up. So, to grow vegetables, honestly, you don't need any more than a cold frame. That's all you need, as long as you're growing the cool season crops. Now, I have a tunnel house this year, and we've always tried to create larger structures, even when we were just creating them out of nothing. The reason for this is, I don't know about you, but I'm really uncomfortable standing outside in snow, rain, freezing cold temperatures, trying to lift up the window or whatever the access area is to get inside to get my crops. It also lets more cold air get into them and lets more of the warm air out. So this is why I prefer larger structures that I can quickly open a door in the middle of the afternoon and step into and close the door behind me. That way I can go inside, I can take my coat off, I can be a little bit more comfortable. I'm not worried about the plants being exposed to really frigid cold air. And I can kind of take my time working in my winter vegetable garden, harvesting my crops, seeing what needs to be done. Um, I've also been asked about water temperature. I have a rain barrel that sits in my tunnel houses. Sometimes, yes, I get a fairly thick layer of ice on the very top of it if it gets really, really cold. But I found that I can kind of push that ice down with my hands or with my water bucket or whatever I'm using and get underneath of it and get some water to be able to water my plants. So I use basically room temperature water that has been outside in that tunnel house. Like I said, it's not frozen, but it's not warm either. By any means, it's not warm. If you have an emergency situation and you don't have access to water wherever you're growing, bring some snow into your tunnel house. Put it in something, unless you can get it right under the plants. But I would put it in something and just let it melt. And you don't need to use warm water. I would recommend not using warm water because that could kind of shock the plant.